And these are our typical moves for calf raises, foot mobility, anything, any problems with the feet, ankles, even up to the knees. We'll start with the calf raise. And I like to use toe pros because it was designed to make your body go onto a negative angle, and then it's raised right here. And so if you go onto it, you do this on a step, but you should have like a towel, a hand towel or something rolled up to elevate the toes a little bit. This is based on the research here. And so with a calf raise, I like to have hands on a wall, hands on a railing if you're on a step, but essentially it is what it says. You raise the calves up, and then we will push the heels in just a bit. A lot of times I like to use those Naboso balls. You can use a toilet paper roll, any kind of ball, tennis ball, to squeeze your feet together. I'll show what it looks like from here. But we're gonna go up and in. And I say down and out, but I mean down and back to neutral, okay? And then when you're up on into this groove, or if you're on a stair, can you come down and kind of look here? There's a couple things you want to look for. A lot of people with problems in their feet, ankles, they won't know how to use something called the flexor digitorum brevis. And this is called a wink side. We need that in those toes because these are the longest levers. And if you're not producing this to push into the ground and create foot stability and strength, you'll start using something called a flexor digitorum longus, which is more like clawing like a talon. And then if that happens, you just end up pivoting over the top and it's easier to fall over. So here's where your strength is. And you can see at least those three. It'd be nice if the little toe is pushing in and we have the big toe. Typically we're pushing in right here to create that long lever, okay? Flexor hallucis longus, flexor digitorum longus and flexor digitorum brevis right here. Okay, so we always want the wink side. There, so then I go back up. Okay. So when we get into, so I misspoke it, and we get into something called the flexor hallucis longus. That's more like a plantar fasciitis thing. And it's the big toe coming down here. It'll be super tender right in here. And we're in clinic and this toe doesn't move and it's super tender in here. I'll change to doing something called a flexor hallucis longus calf raise. So we put the elbows in, and then we bring you as far back as you can get without your heels coming off the ground and not too much tension. But it's the same idea. You're gonna lift up and in and down and out. And so more stress will be on the big toe as we come up and in to help stretch and strengthen the big toe. Okay, since we're in standing here yet, fascial stretch of the calf muscle. Let's get into that same position. Then if we're doing this calf, I'm going to grab same side hand, reach up into the ceiling like I'm holding up a tray or a platter as high as I can, and at the same time I'm pushing my heel down into the ground. And you should feel a stretch through the back. There's 3 fascial lines that go in it. There's a medial one, so we push, heel out. There's an intermediate one, so our heel is straight, and then there's the lateral one. Typically people will be more stressed on the medial one with the heel out. But those are the 3 fascial lines that we look at. If we're looking at just to mobilize this ankle joint, we'll get into, let's do foot first and then I'll get into that. So foot motion, to get into this, you can put your other foot over the top of your big toe and try to get mobility that way. We can, if the foot is fixed in the midfoot, we put it right on the top of the arch. And then just lifting the heel of that foot around the heel of the top foot to create motion there. If we need the arch itself to open up, we'll be in similar spot here. And then it's kind of like a curtsy. We'll drop, we'll just basically bend the knee and move it out. And that will create the arch to come up. And then we pin the forefoot down so that we get more motion through the arch. Can also do it to help dorsiflexion. Here, if you put it in just the soft tissue in front of the ankle for motion, but typically what I like to do is get into a half kneeling position with something like this. And essentially you just groove the pattern. A lot of people will bend the knee inward or forward, and they won't be able to create this, it's called tibial torsion. And all your big power muscles come from the back lateral side of your calf and they roll around into here. And so if we can get the tibia to torque or to twist outward, that'll create power all the way up the chain. Big toe, when I say big toe, it's this joint right here. Keep it in, and then we're just gonna slide forward and backward, okay? Other moves that you can do for big toes, essentially just here, we can drag, or we can push that way. And those are calf raises and mobility activities for feet, ankle, and toes.